Revan, the man regarded as one of the most powerful Sith Lords in galactic history, and without dispute, one of the most intelligent, contributing many things to the Sith Order to the point where his teachings would echo across the centuries, with the likes of Bane and even the culmination of the Sith Order Sidious holding the Dark Lord in high regard. But it was not always like this. There was a time when the Lord of the Sith Revan was not a servant of the dark, and when his first step into the shadow was not one of his own accord, but one forced upon him by an individual who would come to torment the prodigal knight for decades upon decades. Before Revan became a Lord of the Sith, he was a Jedi. Found as a child, presumably in the outer rim of the galaxy, Revan was in fact not the child's given name, but one claimed by him years later. As a Knight of the Jedi Order, Revan analyzed their ways, similarly to the way he would the Sith later in life. He witnessed the Jedi speak of helping others, but cower when many circumstances of which to do so were not ideal. Revan desired to obtain a wide view of the Force, even as a Padawan opting to train and learn with multiple Jedi Masters, as opposed to dedicating himself solely to a single teacher. The Jedi Master who Revan likely learned the most from was the Lady of the Jedi Traya, who warned Revan of conforming fully to the Jedi way and the dangers of a narrow mind. Because of this, when the Mandalorian Wars broke out, Revan desired to immediately run to the aid of the galaxy. For almost 10 years before Revan and his followers became involved, the Mandalorians were conquering worlds near the Outer Rim, and on several occasions brought entire species and cultures to the brink of extinction. The Jedi for these nearly 10 years refused to involve themselves, as they believed it was not their place. But Revan, and his close friend who at the time was named Alec, temporarily broke off from the Jedi Order, bringing a portion of the Jedi Knights with them, who would claim the title of Revan Christs, in order to aid the Republic in their time of need. As Revan and his forces joined the fight, the tide turned, as not only was Revan gifted with the Force, but also as a strategist, rivaling the prowess of Grand Admiral Thrawn, who would live centuries after him. The Great War finally concluded on the planet of Malachor V, when the Jedi Revan, driven more callous over the years of constant battle, sacrificed a large portion of his men to pin the leader of the Mandalorians, Mandalore the Ultimate, down and slay him personally. It was not your ships, or your men, or your vaunted fight for freedom that won this, the final battle of the war. It was by the actions of one person, the Jedi Revan, that you prevailed. Revan's strategies and tactics defeated the best of us. Even Mandalore himself was taken aback by the ferocity, the tenacity, and the subtlety of Revan's plans. End quote. As Revan stood on the scorched earth of Malachor, his heart became darkened. He had become something that perhaps was no longer a Jedi, and as those around him cheered, Revan felt nothing but anger. Determined to keep himself within the light, however, Revan allowed many of the Mandalorians to leave in peace, unwilling to destroy them and become like the enemy he had fought for so long. But with this crucial victory also came a grave revelation. Revan and Alec, now taking the title of Malak, had learned the power behind the Mandalorians was not of their own design, but one far more sinister and ancient. As the rest of the galaxy rejoiced, Revan and Malak departed into unknown space, determined to find what they believed to be the remnants of the ancient Sith Empire. So Mandalore was telling the truth. Did you really think his last words would be a lie? Now what? We have our proof. The Sith are not extinct. They have to be stopped. What about the Mandalorians? Without the mask, they are nothing. Once in unknown space, the Jedi discovered the mystery of the ancient Sith Emperor, who was prophesied as invincible. They learned that after the great hyperspace war waged by Naga Sadow, Marka Ragnos' chosen student had deceived the remaining leaders of the Sith Empire, promising them prosperity. This emperor, known as Vitiate, instead slaughtered them in a ritual that prolonged his life, later returning to the younger Sith and leaving for unknown space. Following this, the Jedi Knights then discovered Vitiate's empire, taking months to learn from it and hide as they gathered as much information as possible on this mysterious Dark Lord. The time eventually came when Revan and Malak infiltrated the palace of Vitiate, believing they could defeat him alone, but what they found shocked them. Vitiate had been waiting. He had discovered the Jedi long ago, and instead of killing them, entered their minds using the Force, and caused their darkest emotions to pour out, from their deepest desires of power to darkest memories. Revan and Malak both realized their path had been one of darkness, and that they now no longer wished to follow the path of the Jedi. In this moment of truth and weakness, Vitiate dominated the former Jedi's minds, and they became his slaves, not only to the Dark Lord, but the dark side itself. The two newly anointed Sith were then sent back to Republic space to win the galaxy for Lord Vitiate, but something peculiar happened. Just as the Jedi had underestimated Vitiate, he had them as well, as they broke free of his grasp, with Revan especially putting forth an effort to free himself. But despite being free from the power of the Emperor, Malak and Revan's minds had been opened, and they had seen the power of the dark side. Fortunately for Revan, this power and change would not be a permanent one, as despite the many gifts the darkness has to offer, it ultimately destroys all. But for Revan's closest friend Malak, the dark side would prove to be too much, and he would meet his end because of his choices and the influence of the shadow. So that is how Revan was forced to the dark side, and into becoming a Sith Lord. I find it extremely compelling that one of the greatest Sith who has ever lived was forced into that path, and that it was not originally the one he chose. But I also find it intriguing that after seeing and tasting the darkness, he ultimately chose to follow its ways for some time. So how do you feel about Revan and his choices, and is Revan your favorite Sith, and if not, where does he rank in your list? If you enjoyed the video and feel it deserves it, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, as it helps the channel out a great deal. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing to ensure you stay up to date with everything Star Wars related. If you would like to interact with me directly and ask questions, my Twitter is @StupendousWave. Thanks so much as always for watching, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.